Okay, so we're here already in July, second quarter of 2023. So we're sitting here with Dave Barker, Gabrielle Beagle, Laura Lipperstein, and Kyle Klein here. We're at a different location, as you might notice. We're sitting at a bar, unfortunately with empty hands. But we're at the newly opened Knuckles Brewery, which is just behind our office at the rail yard. We're going to have 60 beers on tap. We're going to have some of their own that they're brewing in-house here. Plenty of outdoor seating, a speakeasy downstairs. So we're really excited about having them as our new neighbor.
Oh yeah.
Yes, very exciting addition to the Santa Fe Community Rail Yard, and wow, it's been a few years in the making, and now everything has come together.
Yeah, so super excited about that. Come on down and check it out, and stop by the office, say hi, and maybe go buy you a drink.
Perfect. I think before we get into our talk about the quarterly market update, let's review a little bit about the big transition that we recently got through, because I think the rumor mill out there was that Park Realty was going to be sold, I was going to retire, and I think we disproved that. I'm still here.
You're still here. Yeah.
And as I think and look back about the last 40 years where Lisa and I have worked hard to build this company up to where it is, and with the last 10 years, the two of you have been with us. Kyle Klein and Gabrielle Hill are co-leaders. You've been instrumental as members of our management team for the past 5 years. I am delighted to turn this over to the two of you in terms of the day-to-day operations, and having Laura here as our supporting qualified broker. And I think that the title that you all gave me as Professor of Real Estate,
Yes.
that works. I look really forward to working with brokers, clients, and issues, and that's what I enjoy doing. So
Classes in session.
Yeah. He's got his loafers on, he won't retire. I guess he's a professor. Well, let's get straight into the market report, because boy, there's actually quite a bit to cover. In some ways, the market has shown some fractures, and in other ways, it's shown it's strong as ever. So where are we at? What's going on?
Juan?
Yeah.
Well, it's been an interesting second quarter. I think we've started to see the inventory, some serious increases in the inventory, probably about maybe 25%.
Yeah.
Up. The pricing has gone up. We're starting to see homes over $1,000 a square foot on the east side and up towards the hills. We are seeing some gorgeous homes come up, but the interesting thing in the Hyatt is we are seeing a lot of cash buyers. But the buyers who are looking between maybe 900 and $1.5 million are facing the interest rate crunch.
Yeah.
And I think that's been slowing things down in that segment. And the first-time home buyers are crippled by the interest rates too.
And pricing.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
So, what are you guys thinking?
Right, we're still having a little bit of an inventory issue. I don't think that's any secret. So that's another issue that these new home buyers are facing along with the interest rates. It's starting to get a little more competitive.
Oh, yeah.
We're seeing some more multiple offer situations. One thing that I think's been interesting over the second quarter is I'm not seeing as many terminations as I was seeing in the first quarter.
mm-hmm.
And seeing that, it goes under contract and majority of the time it closes.
This first quarter was a lot of cold feet going on. Is that was just contagious?
It really slowed down. I think if you look back to November, you start to see it will slow down in the market, and probably through March, with February being open. But I think come April, it was like the faucet got turned back on, and we started to see increase in inventory, a lot more transactions. I saw a lot more brokers running around, being very busy, writing contracts, showing property, trying to negotiate deals. So it feels like the trend is very strong right now.
I'm just looking at some of these are general residential numbers for Santa Fe County, right? And so just looking at some of the numbers here, our average is above 850 for the first time.
Wow.
Ooh. I mean, that's a big number. From an inventory perspective, we're still pretty short. Probably about 3 months of like fairly fast moving inventory. But our number of closed transactions in the month of June was the highest been in a single month past year. So despite this sense of like a slowdown that we were all in some ways expecting and feeling at the beginning of the year, Just looking strictly at the numbers, the last 2 months have been very busy.
They have, and I also noticed that trend was true in the luxury market. Of course, we remember luxury we used to define as over $1 million. We've raised that bar now to over $1.5 million. In June, summarily, had the highest number of luxury closed transactions over the past year.
Well, let's take a step and talk about luxury real quick, because I think out of all the sort of market segments, this is one that gets a lot of attention. I mean, there's a conversation right now about the mansion tax and people feeling priced out of Santa Fe, and so that segment of the market seems to see a lot of chatter. But looking at the numbers here, total sold properties over $1.5 million to the is 25. So in terms of like actual sales, they're still only making up about 10% of total transactions in Santa Fe, but they're just at a much higher price point.
Yes.
But looking at this, one thing that has astounded me is the days on market. You know, earlier this year we were looking at almost 200 days on market for $1.5 million plus homes, and now we're back to 70. We hadn't seen this really until back in I think 2020, parts of 2021. So luxury market seems really healthy.
I think we're seeing more cash buyers in the luxury market than we used to, and I'm also hearing about private financing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? Like how something?
Well, it's someone who's got an abundance of money, and he's still making a whole lot of money if he's lending at a little bit below the going interest rate. Why not?
Yeah. So, I guess for some folks, they might be able to take a mortgage on themselves.
Yeah, sure. Or your dad's best friend.
Yeah, right.
So I've heard of several instances where that's happening, private financing, and they just don't have to really take it insurance in order to beat the going interest rates.
Interesting.
Well, the luxury market is gotten very price inexpensive for local Santa Fe. But we continue to hear from people coming out of state that our prices are very affordable.
Yeah.
And that continues to provide tremendous amounts of demand and is pushing those prices up. So I'm not sure that I see any break in that activity right now. I think as long as those other markets in other parts of the country are going reasonably strong, we've got sellers there who are opting to move to Santa Fe.
Well, looking nationally, you bring up a good point. Like if you look at, let's say, Denver. Denver's had a pretty dramatic slowdown in their real estate. That Aspen hasn't, right?
Right.
So you're seeing these smaller markets similar to ours still being very healthy and robust, while the larger sort of metro areas have seen stagnation. I can't help but think that part of that is, there's a lot of things going on there, but I think the interest rates really have to affect that. I think yesterday, a friend of mine was looking at buying early 7 week building. But that's a tough pill to swallow considering where we're at this year.
I guess the question comes down to, is our market really going to adjust to the higher interest rates? And part of me says I think that we already have. There are some areas where we are still feeling that impact significantly lower it, and in that price range that you pointed out, filed between, say, $800,000 and $1.3 million, where a lot of those buyers are subject to financing. That's where the pressure is. But despite that, I'm still astounded how many cash transactions there are. I thought at this point in time we'd start to see that diminish, but I haven't seen any signs yet.
Those deep pocketed wells haven't dried up yet.
No.
Moving on to kind of the opposite in some ways, the land market out there. In some ways, it's kind of similar to luxury because a lot of times there are cash transactions in the land market, not so much financing. It seems to be coming back very strongly. So, looking at the numbers here, days on market are below 200. In the month of June, there was 33 transactions, which eclipses the highest we saw pretty much in the past year, any given month, by about 10. And looking at the inventory, it's holding steady. So we're seeing some pretty good action on land again. So does this slow down quite a bit?
Makes you think that the cost of building is it's looking better than the cost of buying right now.
Yeah.
I don't think construction costs have gone up significantly in the last 6 months.
And we know lumber's come down significantly,
Yeah.
right? And I think for the most part, the supply chains of things like appliances, HVAC, and whatnot, so in healthier shape. So that's probably easy in those timelines. You're not sitting for 3 years hoping it gets built.
Yeah.
I've always felt the new construction activity is one of the biggest signs about how well the real estate market is doing. If you think about the time and commitment a buyer has to make to find a piece of land, find an architect, find a builder, deal with all of the code issues and the time. I mean, it used to be common that you could get a house built up in, say, 9 to 12 months, and now I'm in 2+ years in many cases. That takes a lot of dedication and motivation on the part of the buyer to go through that entire process.
Yeah, especially if you're a builder too, right? Taking on these projects on the assumption that it's actually going to come to fruition, you're going to be paid, right? There's risk involved, all of it. So as long as those keep moving, it does. I agree. I think it's one of those canaries that kind of warns you if things are going sour when all that starts to go away. It's strong as ever right now.
It is. It does make up a big part of our market. I think it's about 10% of sales in the Sanford market, but it speaks volumes.
Yeah. So this market report that's being emailed out to everyone that we're publishing, I was crunching some numbers. We've talked about, you hear people talk about like peak market, your terms like testing the market from sellers, right? Where they want to test a price and see what reaction they get. I have some data that suggests that maybe sellers should consider that approach. And there's a couple of factors at play. First is we know there's a lot of buyers out there still. Like just talking to our brokers in general in the market, it feels like people are still, there's a lot of people actively engaged in looking at properties. Yes, there are. So the demand is there, so you've got to keep that in mind. Well, one would assume that means the pricing is going to continue to climb and all that, but we're not seeing that, so what's happening? And the data I'm showing here is that if you require a price change, you're taking about a 15% haircut when it comes to what you originally asked for. Versus if you hadn't, you're only taking about a 3 to 5% haircut. So it really, I think, speaks to our market is healthy and moving, but if you're trying to push that price point higher and higher, you kind of get punished too by the buyers.
So you get some resistance.
Yeah. Understanding the market monitors, so people will look at that and say, well, what's wrong with this house?
Right.
See, and that's why it's so critical is when, sellers, when you are looking for that broker, you've got to find somebody that knows the market and pay attention to those comps, because we've seen the market shifts from month to month or week to week. It changes all the time. And so you've got to get somebody who's going to give you guide you what's going on with the market. And, I think our brokers do a great job of that. We do a ton of training and keep on top of what's going on right? So we can provide that information to sellers.
I've heard some great win stories from brokers who were able to demonstrate to the seller the level of activity in the immediate past few weeks or so in their particular price range, and to come up with a strategy where they actually put the property on the market at a price significantly below where they think it will sell, because that generates the most level of showings, the most level of activity, and through that offering process, you're going to get bid up to a high sales price. So in a number of cases, it's worked very effectively to actually put a lower price on it and end up with a higher final.
And we're not talking like barn burner low price. We're just talking like it's within plus or minus, let's say 10% of what we think that property likely is going to sell for, and you're going up below it and letting, again, there's a lot of buyers.
Yes.
So you're letting the market push it to where it should be.
Exactly.
I think it's important to note that is what you can invest in, say, the 400 to 800,000.
It is, but numbers don't lie here. If I run the same numbers on the luxury side, if you're testing the market on the luxury side, you're taking nearly a 20% haircut. So, again, how hard do you want to push that versus the reality of what it can actually sell for? I guess it comes down to motivation. If you're not in a hurry, sure, you can maybe afford to sit. But if you're trying to get it sold at this value with this market right now, it's better to stay in line with where things are. If you're a seller right now, or considering selling, what's the key takeaway? What do you need to think about at this moment?
Well, I think you just hit on one. It's price it right.
Price it right.
I think that's what it comes down to. Price it right and really make sure you understand exactly what is going on in those market conditions today, because it changes very quickly. This month is different from 30 days ago.
Yeah.
And I expect it to be different again in another 30 days. So it's really watching those trends and analyzing it.
Yeah, and just based on the numbers we were talking about, there was a period only about a year and a half ago where, in some ways, we were trailing the market. So we were saying, okay, let's say it's 800,000 and we sell them for 820, and we were on the other side of this, right? Looking at the indication right now of where that's going, I would say it's on the downward slope. So people need to kind of keep apprised of what's happening out there, because otherwise you might be looking back. So if you're a buyer, what should a buyer consider, especially considering interest rates and buying power?
Yeah. Consider how much cash you can put down. Consider how best to be competitive. If you're buying a property that is priced well and that is very appealing and is going to have multiple offers, talk about, we've talked about this before, talk about what you can do to make your offer as appealing as possible. So how much cash, escalation clauses, what contingencies can you waive, that kind of thing.
Well, and I'll also say shop around with the lenders, because there's some creative programs right now to try to, whether they find points or different terms. Don't just sit on one. Make sure to take the time to do your due diligence, because it might pay serious dividends in the long run.
I think we're going to start to see the re-entry into the marketplace of the popular adjustable rate mortgage. We're not looking for the fixed 30-year deal. Maybe get it fixed for 2 years and then have a floating rate, because I think odds are, the longer term, I think the odds are pretty darn good that interest rates will start to diminish. I just don't expect to see it this year.
I mean, the report that came out today regarding inflation, so, I think there is a good chance that we will see interest rates be aggressive again, maybe this time downwards in the near future.
I came across some interesting data from our local association. I think it would be wise for some buyers to consider a different type of property. A lot of them are really focused on the single-family homes, and I totally get it. But those median prices continue to climb. And if you look at townhomes and condos, that median price has actually dropped about 3% since this time last year. So it might be a good option for somebody that needs to get into it.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing for buyers to consider is a house guest hut situation, a duplex, so that you can show rental income coming in to help offset the cost.
That's a smart idea, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
Where do you think we're getting up by the end of the year?
Oh boy. It's $1 million question, isn't it?
Yep.
I think realistically, I think this sort of steady march that we've had going on in the market is going to continue through the summer and fall, and then we'll get back to the usual holiday pattern. I don't think prices are going to decline much further than they're at right now. Maybe a couple percentage points either way. It's hard to say. I just don't think it's going to go up.
Interesting. I'm going to give a alternate opinion, different opinion. I think we are going to see prices go up. I just think with the surge of activity that we've seen in the last 60 days, I expect that to continue. And I see pressure, particularly in that $400,000 to $800,000 range, where I think we're going to start seeing even those prices come up, not by significant amounts, but I would say 3 to 4%.
Are you willing to bet an upstairs office on it?
Oh, all right.
I like that idea. Looking at the activity from June, it was a steady climb from start of first quarter to mid second quarter. But you look at June, and that was a big jump that we did in activity, a big jump, and it was on par with what we did last year. And looking at the projections for next month, I think we're going to be pretty close to what we did the previous year as well. So I'm anticipating that it's going to look pretty similar to what we saw this time last year.
So it's interesting because last year, our January through June were really strong. And then in July, it started to slowly taper off. Now we're having the opposite. It was slow through the first few months, and now it's picking up.
Yeah.
Well, it was last year in June that the interest rates started to go up.
Right.
Yes.
So that slowed things down. I think people are starting to get used to the interest rates. And I think I'm with you. I think we're going to see a slower increase than we did last year, but I think that prices will continue to go up a little bit as buyers get more confident. I will be curious to see what the luxury market does, because that one has been very struggle in increases.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, we know that there's demand here. I mean, just looking at, the full car market, we've done for really hard. Best year they've had in terms of numbers.
Yes.
I mean, it's been crazy down here. Going to the various concerts like the ones that we sponsored, the ones at 360 here in the rail yard. I mean, town's bubbling, right? I mean, you can feel the energy. It's here. So, I want to agree with you guys. The demand is there, right? There's scarcity of properties, but there's still just so much that someone can afford. And to me, I think that's the part we can't get past. Well,
What'd you say?
yeah, I guess we'll check in 3 months and find out.
Good. All right. Thank you.
All right.